back to the Think About It channel. Today we're doing another episode of Rehearsal, and we have a very lovely guest with us, Lily. Lily is a radio host
Hi.
originally from Cape May County, New Jersey. Shout out to the South. You can hear her on
Mhm.
Jojo and Lily in the morning,
Yeah. Woo.
on Froggy 98.1 in Hollidaysburg, PA, as well as the midday show on Pop
Mhm.
103.5 in Parksburg, West Virginia. Lily is another Rowan grad. We've had a couple of those on the show. With her bachelor's degree in radio, television, and film. And she has recently started a podcast called Lily's Book Nook for all the book people out there, where she reviews books that she's read or is reading each week. Hi, Lily.
Hi, it's so good to see you. It's been a long time.
It has been a long time. So Lily and I think, went to high school together. She's a little bit older than me. So that's how I know Lily. And I'm friends with her brother, who I haven't
Mhm.
seen in a long time as well. So Lily was kind
Mhm.
enough to take time out of her busy
It's all
schedule
right.
as a radio host and a mom to answer some questions for us. So exciting.
Hey.
Um, so let's jump right into it. So, radio. What drew you to radio,
Mhm.
and when was it? When did you know that that's what you wanted to do?
So I actually did not for a long time. I started going to Rowan in 2012, and I knew I wanted to do something in entertainment. I wanted to do something with media. I just wasn't sure where I wanted to go. I joined the television station at Rowan University, and I was like, this is not it. Like, this is not the place for me. And then I just like I was leaving school one night and I walked past the radio station and I was like, I should give it a go. It might not be so bad. And at the time, one of my professors, Derek Jones, he was my professor, and I asked him about it because he's the station manager. He's like, yeah, like you can just check it out. If you don't like it, you don't like it. I ended up loving it. I ended up being the operations manager there, but I knew while I was working there, I really wanted to do morning radio, morning drive. It's the most listened to time on the radio. And if you're in that spot, you're good. And I was like, I'm not settling until I find something in morning drive. And I applied to three different places. And I ended up deciding to move to central Pennsylvania, where I still am.
Very nice. So speaking of applying for jobs, what is that search and process like
Mhm.
in your field? Because like I imagine it's more than just we're gonna sit you down and do like a regular interview in front of whatever execs, right? There's got to be more to it.
Yeah, so I mean, I applied online. At the time, it was all access. I don't even know what it is now. I had applied there, and I got a call within a couple weeks. And the first thing I did was a phone. It was they say it's a phone interview, but it was more of just a conversation, trying to get a feel, trying to see if there could be chemistry. It was me and my now co-host Jojo, and our program director, who is basically a supervisor, and they ended up, I guess, liking that phone call. At the time, I was cat sitting for my cousin Nicole, and when they had called me, but I went up about a week later, and what they call it is an audition. I sat down for the whole morning show, and I did the morning show with JoJo as if I was his co-host, and two other people went up against me on different days, and I got picked.
Very cool.
It was pretty cool.
So does JoJo have a say in that
Yeah.
at all, or is it just sort of the because the chemistry's got to matter, right? You guys work together every morning, I
Mhm.
imagine pretty much every day except holidays. How much of a say did he have in your hiring process?
So he had a big say because exactly, like you have to have chemistry with who you're doing this with. And if nothing is flowing, if it's awkward, it's not going to be it. And you can tell if you listen to radio, you can tell who was put together based
Mhm.
off of just maybe seniority or years, or they just needed to fill that position versus people who actually get along and can actually produce a show. And we've been doing the show together now. In July, it'll be 9 years. We're
Whoa.
syndicated, and Pretty awesome. Yeah.
That makes me feel old because I don't feel like it's been that long, but apparently it's been that long. That's crazy.
Oh my God. I know. It feels like it was just yesterday when I moved up here. And then I like look around, I was like, "Oh my God, I'm married now. I have 2 kids. We have a house. Like I've been
Hmm.
here for almost a decade."
You got
It's
back pain
nuts.
yet?
Yes. Yeah. That was thanks to the epidural.
Yes.
Thank you.
So how much work goes into making a radio show? Because I imagine there are people out there that'll say things like, "Oh, you just show up and you yap for 4 hours a day and then you go home." So like, what really goes into making a radio show go?
The famous 4 in the door.
Four in the door.
Because we hear that a lot. 4 in the door, 4 hours in, you're done.
Hmm.
Which is not at all what it is. So I have to get to work at 4 o'clock in the morning, which means I wake up at 2:30, and then I get to work and we just start show prepping. So show prepping consists of just basically going all through the internet and looking and seeing what's going on. Um, social media helps our job a lot. TikTok, for instance, I go through and see like what's trending on there, and I'm like, oh, like maybe we can use some of this, or like Instagram is huge as well. We're given some show prep sites and we can use some of those news stories as well. A lot of it though just is our real life stuff. I got to be
Hmm.
honest. Like a lot of like recently my husband and I we've been looking for a new car. We can bring that up and then we have listeners who are like you should look at this car or oh, don't go
Hmm.
to this place. Like now we won't call out certain places,
Sure.
but real life stuff that ends up being the most important part of the show and people remember that. Um, like there's stuff that we've talked about years ago, and listeners will still come up to us today and bring that up, and I'm like, how do you remember that?
Hmm.
It's neat though. It's cool. Like they really become a part of. They're interested in your life, is what it
Hmm.
is.
Yeah, there's definitely like an investment because, like you said, they are. I mean, you're in their car, you're in their living room,
Mhm.
like you are a part of their family to a certain extent. So that's got to be pretty cool
Mhm.
and pretty creepy at the same time.
It is, yes,
So not only do you do the morning show,
definitely.
but how recently did you start doing the midday show?
I just started that last year in the
Okay.
summer. And that kind of just popped up, and everybody had to audition for it if they wanted it. I sent in a demo and I got picked. So that is a pre-recorded show, as in like I usually do that and like about like an hour before that comes on. Like I start it an hour before, and that takes up time too because that's actually a longer shift and it's a lot more pop culture. So my morning
Mhm.
show is country music and we do country topics, but with pop, it's a lot more pop culture pop music. It's a lot more like Taylor Swift stories, Selena Gomez,
Mhm.
somebody new who we keep playing, Tate McRae. Like, so it's a lot different. So I actually, in the morning when I get there, I'm show prepping for 2 shows,
Mhm.
but it keeps me busy. So I like it.
What do you find more challenging? So your morning show you're doing live with JoJo, and then you just said the
Mhm.
midday show is pre-recorded. So is one harder than the other, or is it just different kind of work?
It's different kind of work, but if I, it's different kind of work. I think the morning show, it's always live, and in some ways I think I'm more comfortable maybe and like I have somebody to go back and forth with
Mhm.
and it's a lot like that to me is easier, but what is harder is like when you're in the middle of doing something and like he and I are going back and forth and then we have a question for everyone like tell us this is like such an evergreen topic that we never do unless it's like we're joking about it but like a lot of shows do what's your favorite strange food combo
Mhm.
and like say we ask that question and we get nothing and it's like crickets or we get like 2 responses that's when I'm like oh like that's really hard but overall, I would definitely say I think they're just hard in different ways. Like the
Hmm.
different things are hard about each one, but I enjoy doing both.
So what are some of the highlights and the hard points of radio? Because I think people on pay-per-view look like, wow, that seems like a pretty cushy thing. But what are sort of like,
Some
yeah,
highlight.
highlights and lowlights?
So I'll okay, well highlights, I mean, I love the part like this all this week. Something I was able to do, go out and read to kids for Read Across America. I love that part of my job, like like I don't want to say community service because that's not really what it is. I guess maybe kind of. Just getting out into the public. I love meeting people, and especially when you have somebody who comes up to you and they're like, "I listen to you every morning. I couldn't get through my work shift without listening to you," or "I love watching your videos on TikTok," or "I love watching your videos on Facebook, and you and Jojo are so funny." That makes the job worth it. It makes getting up at 2:30 in the morning, coming in here, like, because there's a lot of things that I don't get to do. Like my son, my oldest, started preschool this year. I didn't get to see him go off to preschool on his first day because I had to go to work
Yeah.
and I have to be in so early. Like I miss different things like that. So when our listeners come up to us, like when we go out or they see us or we're doing some event and they say how much they love listening, like that's definitely a highlight. Um, Another highlight from it was from years ago. I think it was like almost I think it was about 8 years ago. Jojo and we raised over $10,000 for breast cancer awareness,
Oh, no
and
joke.
that was a highlight. Yeah, that was a really that was probably one of the most successful and just like rewarding things that we got to do. I would say the low points or like the negative stuff about the job is in a way it's like as much as I say like the public is great, it's also the public can be so mean.
Yeah.
um like people don't know me on a personal level and people will listen to me and if they don't like something I say, they're gonna go off on it. Or they'll say, "Oh, that Lily, she's so annoying. I don't know how to listen to her." And it's like, I'm a person too. I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea, which is fine. But to read about yourself and like what people don't like about you, and like
Mhm.
sometimes that could be like a big insecurity already. I
Right.
would say that's probably the hardest thing. But the job has also made me grow thicker skin. So
Yeah.
I think that's helped too, a little
Hmm.
bit. Like my confidence has built up a lot. And it's easier the longer I do this, it definitely gets easier to just ignore people or just like sarcastically just make fun of them back. But like I'm not really allowed to make fun of them back. So
Yeah. So I imagine being a radio host, you get to meet a lot of cool people. Um, because I'm sure the
mhm.
stations have people come in or whatever. So who are the most interesting people, musicians or not musicians, if you can or can't name drop, that you have met through your work?
So some of the celebrities I have met, just most recently, I met Tyler Hubbard. He was formerly from Florida Georgia Line. He was walking into the hotel that I was at, and it was, I mean, it was for the event was for country radio. He walked in, and you can tell this man was tired.
Yeah,
He looked exhausted, but he still took the time to take pictures and sign autographs with everybody there. Um,
that's nice.
I just thought he was so kind. Somebody else I met too, last year, Mitchell Tenpenny, and he was super sweet. Um, he sang he opened up for Luke Combs. He was also really kind. I met a couple football players who were really nice. It's tough because like I think what people think about my job too is that I hang out with celebrities a lot, and I really don't. I don't get to meet a lot of them either. When we give tickets out, we don't always get any, and if we do, it's usually like they're like, "You can have these tickets, but that's all I have." And we want our listeners to get that experience, you know? Like if there's a meet and greet, I would rather my listeners who like just adore these artists,
Right.
and I would love for them to have that opportunity. Now, I told my manager if Morgan Wallen comes in this area, you better sell your kidney because I want to meet him. So there's
You
like
can
some
forget the
celebrities I am
listeners
going to
that
fight,
day.
but yeah, they'll be all right. So I need to meet him.
I will point out that Jojo was not on that list of people you mentioned, and I'm not sure how he would feel about that.
No. You know what,
Jojo,
though? With JoJo, he has been in the industry for about 36 years. And he has met a lot of celebrities. I mean, he has met In Sync. Now these are, like maybe more of like our time. He's met In Sync, he's
you're
met the
showing
Backstreet
Jojo's
Boys,
age.
he's met Britney Spears. I know I am. I know. This was like when he was in his 20s. But he met Mariah Carey. He once had lunch with Bill Clinton when he was president. I mean, he's met a lot of people, but he says like, not everybody is who they seem to be.
Yeah.
And something I learned from a friend of mine in college, his name was Christian. He said, never meet your heroes.
Never meet your heroes. Yep.
And which I think sometimes I think meeting my heroes has been okay. Like I met one of my radio idols. Her name is Lauren, and I met her 10 years ago at the Gracie Awards in New York. And I told her what I wanted to do. And then just in Nashville a few weeks ago, I ran into her and it was surreal. And she was still the most kind person that she was 10 years ago. So,
That's
like,
cool.
in that case, I was like, that's so cool. But I did meet somebody else who I looked up to. And I got to say, that never meet your heroes thing, I don't want to say who they were, but I was
It
like,
did fit that
that
time.
sucks.
It did fit that time.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. So,
Um, do you find that you have a hard time going out in public, especially like in the town you work in, or are people usually pretty chill about it?
um, it's funny. My friends feel like I have a harder time than I do.
Okay,
um, it's my I have a couple best friends. One of them, Ellen, she comes up to visit frequently, and she will bring 2 suitcases because she's like, I know when I get there, I'm going out with Lily and I might be in pictures. So I need to dress my best. And I'm like, you do not have to do that. And then one of my other, one of my very best friends up here, her name's Amanda. She has now just become like, she takes over as like my photographer slash manager. And she's like, I'll take a picture. Just give me the camera. I mean, like, I've been out to eat and I've had people just like scoot in my booth and they're like, I just love listening to you, which I think is so nice. I really do. It is funny, like there's just no boundaries. I it's surreal. I think it's very surreal that people want their picture with me. Like you knew me back in high school and college, like you've been to my parents' house, like so like that like I don't know, I guess on a different level. So I think it's weird that people want their picture with me. But it's like
they
it's cool
should.
though. It's a cool feeling. It's
They
definitely
should
like
want their picture with you.
you've
You're
made it.
amazing. They are, listen, they're maybe not justified
Well,
hopping into
thank you.
your
You're
booth,
so
but they are
sweet.
justified in wanting to hang out. Like, don't be trying to steal her chicken parm. But like,
Yeah,
I get it. You should want your
you're right.
picture. Tell us about the
Yeah, and
podcast.
I'm always like super. Ooh, my podcast. I wish I could show you. I have all of my books like surrounding me right now, but I have my laptop in because it's charging. I recently started this. It's Lily's Book Nook, and I've always been a reader. I have always loved reading. There was a few years where I kind of took a little bit of a break because, as you know, newborns are pretty exhausting. Um, and when my youngest turned 1, I started to get back into reading and I was started first it was like one book a week. And then I was like it was one book every two it was like a one book for 2 weeks. Then it was a book a week. And then I was like getting really into reading and then I made the decision to buy a Kindle and I was reading multiple books in 1 week. So I had to like kind of slow down the Kindle habit a little bit, but I just love reading. I love that it just takes you into a different world and it kind of maybe it's a mental illness, I don't know, but it kind of like just lets you disassociate for a little bit. And I just think reading it's so important. And so when the idea like from the company they wanted people to start podcasts and I was like I got an idea. I was like I read a lot and people like my listeners they constantly will be like what book is Lily reading? Give me a book recommendation. So I thought this would be a perfect way. And so far it's doing pretty well, has a lot of downloads. It just premiered on the 28th of February. There's already been over 100 downloads, which I think is pretty exciting. A lot of readers out there, a lot of nerds. So yeah, you can hear a new episode every Friday. And episodes, they're about 10 to 15 minutes. And I just review whatever books I read that week. I'm trying to kind of stick with one though, so it's not too confusing. But I'm having a lot of fun with it.
I saw you're in the middle of a series right now. How's your series going?
I just finished it. I was
Ooh.
loving it until the last one. I don't want to say too much more. If you listen to my latest episode that was just released tonight, um, you'll see why. I was so disappointed. It was so good up until that last book. I was like, what is this? I said this in the podcast. I don't even know if the same author wrote it. Like her name's on it, but I'm
Yikes.
like, girl, what happened here?
Yikes.
So yeah, that was a little bit of a letdown. The book I'm going to read for my next review is called One of the Girls. It's a thriller. I
Oh.
was told it's good.
Well, we'll see.
Yes.
We'll find out on Friday.
You will. Yes. Yeah. we, we will.
So, where can people learn more about you and what you do? And if they want to hop on the podcast train, the podcast, where can we learn more about what you do?
All right. So, first of all, you should all right now grab your phones if you don't have it already in your hand. If you do, download the Froggy 98 radio app. That's where you can hear me and my co host Jojo and Lily. You can hear us Monday through Friday, 6 to 10 a.m. The app is free. And then eventually you'll be able to access my podcast on the app. But for right now, you can find my podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and you can also go to iHeartRadio and find my podcast there. It's called Lily's Book Nook. And there's 4 episodes so far. It's pretty exciting. It's like my little baby, my little project that I just love. And you can follow me if you want to know more about me. You can follow me on Facebook and TikTok. I'm at Lily Radio. And Instagram, I am Lily Morning Show. It's Lily.
Very nice.
Yes. And sorry
And
about that.
and you're a fun follow. It's not just your radio stuff. Um,
Yeah.
it's your everyday life stuff too. I think there was some chili on there the other day that looked very
There
tasty.
Thank you, family recipe. Family
Yes.
recipe. I used to post a lot more of my kids as they get older and the world kind of just sucks sometimes. I don't post them a whole lot, but sometimes you get a random kid video on there. My husband, he's a pretty good sport. Uh, and he's the best. I mean, I met him up here. I did not like go out looking for him. We met and we got married like a year and a half after we started dating, or like 2 years. I just wanted to give him a little special shout out because
Shout out
I
to
just
Mr.
love him.
X.
Yeah, Mr. X. It's Mr. X, like the letter X. That's all that is. We weren't X's or
No, let's
anything.
clarify that. Yeah. It's just the letter
Yes,
X.
just the letter X. X is in like anonymous. He is very shy. He When we met, he was not a listener. He did not listen to the show. He knew who I was because he's like, well, I knew Lily. He's like, everybody up here knows Lily, is what he said to me. He's like, but I didn't really listen. So that was like the first thing that really was like interesting because I knew he wasn't like a super fan or anything. And he's just so shy. So he was like, you don't have to he's like, you don't have to like talk about me, or it's okay. And so we sometimes like to just call him when he's in the middle of working.
Hey,
Yeah, we're just,
that's
just to
great.
mess with him. He's a good sport.
That's So before we go, I'll ask you one more fun one. Do
Yeah.
you have any hot takes in the literary world that you want to share with us?
I was thinking about this. That's tough. Like hot takes are basically like your opinion that would kind of shock people.
That
Isn't
may or
that
may not be controversial.
so? Okay, something when it comes to books, I started a fantasy book for my book club this month, and it's called The Games Gods Play. And I was like, this book is going to be horrible. I now have found myself almost having like a book crush, if that's a thing, on Hades. I didn't think that was possible. I'm like, who am I? And all the because I was not a fantasy reader. I was that I guess I kind of thought they were weird, and I didn't know why people got into them. And now that I'm reading one, I'm like, I can see this. Um, I also think enemies to lovers, while I do like it, is sometimes it's just annoying. Like when they fight too much, it's like that's
Yeah.
it's like over the top. Megan, what's her name? Megan Quinn. I like some of her stuff, but like when she does enemies to lovers, I'm like, chill. Like these people like are gonna kill each other. Um, I also am not. I will read a series, but I don't. I prefer standalones. I really
Okay.
do. I prefer standalones. People love reading series though, and I read them, but I think standalones, like when they're really good. Emily Henry, she's another author. I love her work, and she does standalones, but she kind of puts people from the past books in the new one. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I'm a big fan of her. I'm trying to think. Oh, and something else that's like kind of weird that like I was like the what is it? The single dad and the nanny. That was another thing where I was like, that is such a weird trope. And then I read a couple books and I'm like, oh, I get it. I get it now. So those are some of the books I do tend to like go towards, but I'm trying to read more than just like contemporary romance. I
Sure.
used to only read thrillers, but I had to kind of back away from that because they were starting to get sick. Like it was kind of just bad
I hear that.
mentally. Mentally. So
No.
I'm so glad I was able to come on. I mean, I didn't know if you had any other questions,
No, I was gonna
but
say thank you. Thank you so much for being willing to come on. And I know you're a busy lady with, the radio
wait,
shows and the kids.
won't stop this. Hold on a second. It's my kitty Lola.
Hi,
She's here.
Lola.
Do you want to sit? She was scratching at the door. Okay. She was scratching at the door, so I thought she wanted to like be a part of it. That's Lola. I also have Gracie. And
Lola
Gracie was
and
named
Gracie.
after my one of my awards I won in college, a Gracie Allen Award, and Lola was named
Oh,
after the Copacabana.
there you go.
You know, her name was Lola. I'm very weird. My children, Sam and Dean, were named after Supernatural, the TV show.
Hmm.
So, like a theme, I guess.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. That's a
But
good
thank you
theme.
so much for having me on. This was
Yes.
fun. It was nice to see you again. It's been
Yes.
so long.
Yes.
And you too have a beautiful family.
Thank you so much. Thank
I
you
still
so much.
follow.
We try our best.
Yeah. We're all tired. It's okay.
Yes. But we're all gonna watch this and we're all gonna tune in Monday on the app. And if we're not local, we're gonna listen to you and JoJo.
Yes, remember Froggy 98 Radio.
Thank you, Lily.
Thank you.